Excellent. Yes, party. Let's get the party started. So, extreme professionalism, software craftsmanship. Let's see what the heck is that. Quick introduction. Java champion, 15 years of Java. Trainings done in different companies throughout the world. This is what I do for a living today. Standard technical stuff, Spring, Hibernate, Java 8. Architecture, domain-driven design, clean. This is what I teach. Clean code, refactoring, unit testing, test-driven development, and this is the hardcore zone, performance, reactive, and secure coding. Some people here have been to the hardcore zone. Okay, good. And I also do meetups and conferences. So I usually go to companies, but I also have some groups you can join if you like. These are paid, unfortunately. And some stuff on Teachable you can purchase. Or you can join my community, which has grown to 3,500 yesterday. So it's basically the largest developer community in Romania. But the good news is we are speaking English. It's not really all of them Romanian, of course, but yeah, 3,500 people, and we are playing every month with some topic, debating and discussing. Good. So, a bit of history. Oh, one last thing I forgot to mention. Basically, all the talks that I do right now in my meetup are recorded on my YouTube channel. So if you want to check them out, feel free. All right. So history. At the beginning, there were only craftspersons. Actually, to make this very clear, my community is called Software Craftsmanship, and there were some weird discussions about the word man in here. So let me be very clear, at the beginning, most people were women. Most software engineers were women, in case you know. And I actually have to confess that one of the best developer I ever worked with, her name was Bianca, of course. It's a she, she's a she. So my truly deepest respect for women on this thing. But my community is called Software Craftsmanship, that's an English word. But at some point, this all changed. People were happy at the beginning. But then, testers came to the party. Developers and testers, the people started to specialize in these two parties, these two clubs. And of course, testers were kind to us. Hey, here's your bug. And then, oh, come on, I insist. And then, oh, they take the bug. This caused a lot of, and I've been to teams 13 years ago that have this exact behavior. Like the tester came to you with a knife, I have a bug. All right. Now, then I once went to Polytechnica and there was a guy there who wearing a black t-shirt on which there was I see dead servers. Can you imagine this? A big, ugly guy with a t-shirt. I see dead servers. Guess what? He was a sysadmin of the Polytechnica network, one of the sysadmins. So then sysadmins came to the party. They hate changes. They don't want you to change anything. Don't change anything. It works, right, in production. But then you have to change stuff. I just talked today with some guys that have to migrate from Oracle to Postgres. They had to break a schema, but that cost 10,000 euro per year. And why? Because it's painful and they have to. There is another person in charge of managing systems, right? And then something weird happens. Developers don't have admin rights on their virtual machines. Yes, this happens still in Romania. I have clients that they can't install software on their machines. What the hell, right? Restricted software, email blocking. And then don't tell anyone, except the 116 person in the room. I used to zip, encrypt, and base64 encode and send me the software through the corporate firewall. I passed illegal software as email, as base64 encoded files. Who the does that? So you don't want to get a developer angry. Now I have ideas already, right? Now, then the DBA come to the party. All right, DBA, professionals, was invented by Oracle to get more money from us. Excellent. The DBA didn't used to exist before. DBA. And then, the DBA, they always want to keep to keep everything inside the database. I mean, that's what the data is. That's where the source of truth is. So you Java developers, get out of here. We will do the stuff inside. This was I don't know, 2000, 2005, 2008. I experienced that myself when I started working, right? Now if today the developers, they always think that database is just a detail. Uncle Bob says this is the mindset. You develop your model, you develop your stuff to cover the problem, and then at the end you think about persistence. It's a collateral stuff, unless you have to handle some insane high frequency systems. But most of the time, it's better to start with the model first, and then think of the performance of the persistence later on. Right? And there is a worse extreme on the market today. The idea of re-implementing everything in NoSQL. Let's ditch the relational. Let's go for Mongo. Yeah, this is also bad. I mean, damn it. They have foreign keys there. They have not null checks. They have constraint. What do you do in Mongo? Hope. So yeah, they all have advantages. And then developers themselves started splitting, you know? I mean, first of all, there are some, have you heard of ABAP before? ABAP? It's derived from Java. It's a language which is actually SAP proprietary. You can't really write anything except SAP with it. There are all sorts of strange languages around. And then, of course, JavaScript. I mean, dynamic languages versus static languages, right? Or the so-called game development studios. I have two clients that are game companies. And those guys in there, they are really cut off reality a lot of times. They have their own bubble, let's say. Oh, and then Node.js, oh la la, Node.js started reinventing everything a while ago, right? And then the classical fight between frontend and backend, oh la la. Single page apps with insane technology, with very complex frameworks. And then young developers, they usually take the UI path. It's easier to get into the business. No company will easily hire someone without some strong pedigree, unless for some frontend. And that's an easy entry for less skilled, or at least not, how to say this? People coming to frontend tend to be maybe less experienced than those on the backend side. Somehow, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But they were discovering practices. They were reinventing stuff. They were thinking about clean code again and again. Stuff that is old and classic already, right? And if you ask a front-end developer, then we, the backends, are just the API developers. They both have their own vision. So front-end is like this, back-end is like this. all right. And there's a front-end developer trying to write back-end code. They all have their own. This is insane, right? I mean, why? Why all this? Why? Oh, and then the mobile happened. Oh my God. And you have to have an app. You have to have an app. Every company today has to have an app. And there are 3 front-end implementations. Bang! 3 times more bugs. Why? Because these teams, they never talk to each other. Simple as that. One bug in here is one bug in there. Very easy. So this is the so-called triad of waste because of this specialization, right? Now, I know there are smart ways to cover for some of this, like platforms that output applications which are compatible with mobile and web. But if you want to be very, very, I don't know, to write a very good-looking app, then you need the native one. And even in the same language. Oh my God, I had the problem, so I thought to use OOP. Now I have a problem factory. Now, what am I trying to say here? In high school, we all start learning programming with procedural style, right? I mean, if, force, bubble sort, quick sort, yeah, feels good. We feel like, ah. And then you come to faculty, and most of us, including me, I first heard about object-oriented programming from a dinosaur. Dinosaurs, you know, those teachers that have 60 years and they refuse to retire from faculty and they come and teach you object-oriented programming. I don't want to give names here, but he was a dinosaur, full-fledged dinosaur. And then he says, whoa, this is object-oriented programming. Look, polymorphism. Oh my God. Oh my God, you can extend. Oh, and then you come to work. And there is this guy over there who says, I am a functional programmer. Are you still using OOP? Get out of here. That geek guy that is a big fan of functional programming and discards everything else. This is bad. You should use every paradigm to its own purpose. You want super high parallelization. You want to do data enhancement. Go for functional. You want to do state transitioning. You want to do encapsulation of business rules. Go for object-oriented. You want to write an algorithm, procedural. They all have their own place. None is better. They all have their own place, right? Now, just a second. So this basically leads, in one word, to overspecialization. People are doing just one thing and one thing only, right? And this leads to slow projects, large teams. And have you ever heard of low truck factor or bus factor? It's fascinating. It's the amount of the amount of developers that have to be killed by a truck for the project to be in deep shit. Sorry. Right? So if you have a single guy that knows SQL, oh my God, good. So yeah, I will speak slower. I saw your comments. I will do my best. I had 3 coffees today. So. Yeah, even worse sometimes. People reinvent. I have two clients in Bucharest. One of them re-implemented Spring, and the other one, pay attention, they've re-implemented Hibernate 10 years ago. They have their own version of an object relational mapper. They are in hell. They are in hell. And there is no other framework largely accessible to mortals than an object relational mapper, like Hibernate or Entity Framework in C#. And they've rewritten it themselves. My God. So what's the solution to all of this? To the overspecialization, basically, is to care for the code as a whole. Don't have silos. Break those walls, right? So you should learn all aspects of your project, right? So that you can help in any area. You don't delegate. You don't call the DBA guy when you have a problem with SQL. Someone today in a training just told me that. So we have to wait 2 months for the DBA to do the change. What? How insane! So you control. You are in charge of your stuff. Yes, it's an extreme programming principle. You got that right. So with all of that comes a lot of power. But with a lot of power comes also a great responsibility. Spider-Man. That's a quote from Spider-Man. All right. Now, so what I'm talking about full stack developer, someone that knows everything. Everything. How can you know everything? But again, very important. Full stack means that you are not really very keen on just keeping a single language. You know your stuff, yes. You don't know all the stacks, right? Of course, I don't want you to know to attempt to learn everything perfectly. I want you to be what's called the T-shaped developer. You have one expertise in one area, very, very good on that. I don't know, maybe it's TypeScript, maybe it's Java, maybe it's, I don't know, machine learning, but then you learn from the other parts a bit. Just enough to, so if you put me now to start an Angular application, I am not able to do that. I am not able to lay the ground for a very clean and nice architecture in an Angular. But I am sure able to change a screen, to add a screen by copy pasting and changing the relevant parts. This is what I mean by a T-shape. I know how to adjust stuff without depending on anyone else, right? And yes, I know Java, but that's my expertise, but I know a bit of others, right? If you do that, you will find that at some point you will discover that the same principles you apply everywhere, right? So, for example, the idea of having the clean code rules, right? That the method doesn't have more than, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 lines, not many parameters. The idea of having object-oriented, this is applicable to any language in the world. I'm not sure about Perl though. But anyway, auto-testing, the idea of having your code automatically checking itself. That's something that you can apply everywhere. We did test-driven development to develop a TypeScript Angular component. TDD, we did TDD by the book. It is possible, it's the same idea. So you have to know this, security, the principles, logging. These things you can apply to everywhere you go. One warning here though, don't ever claim you are a full stack guru. There is no such thing like a full stack guru. You can't know them all. It's impossible. It's impossible. And here is a rare picture of someone running npm install on their project. Pay attention. A rare picture. npm install. Ha! What are these? Packages. Oh my God, you can't know all the gooses, right? You can't know them all. It's impossible. So don't claim ever to be a full stack guru, right? So if you don't hire full stack experts. There is no such things, right? Are you a backend or a frontend or a DevOps, but you know from other parts? Yes. Why? Because in the end, technologies change, right? I'm hearing more and more about Kotlin these days. I don't know. Technologies change. And the fact that you are always learning will keep your mindset flexible. You don't, how do you say that in English? You don't narrow yourself. You don't bottleneck yourself. You continuously learn, you keep your mind open, right? And that's a hint for you. If you find that your current project, it is stopping your growth, move, look around, move, do something. Don't just stay, okay? Now, what am I telling you here? I'm telling the ideology that is underlying the idea of software craftsmanship. This is what made me start this community, really. These ideas, these things, and I will point you to some books so you can read it for yourself. Right? So learning keeps you flexible, keeps your mind open, keeps you ready for anything that comes to you, right? And then also, if you have a full stack team, this happens. I have some clients, quite a lot of them, which are full stack. Those teams are super well bundled each other. I mean, they're a team. If I have a team like backend developers, frontend developers, there is always that friction in between. If you are a full stack, if you do your stuff in the front end when you have to, or vice versa in the backend, the teams are, why? If I would have to do a change in Angular that exceeds my capabilities, I will call someone from the front-end team, asking him to pair program with me. Bang, there you go, collaboration, team bonding, right? So teams are better from a social point of view if you have full stack developers. They are more adaptable, so they earn more. I can't promise you this, but typically they earn more if they do everything. Now, another thing here, I see the questions are there a lot. 25, 27 degrees, why? No, what? I will answer the questions, I will take them again because I got, okay. Now, what should I learn? I get this question very often because I am in this business of teaching people and I get this question weekly almost. What should I learn next? My best advice, don't start learning a technology which is very cool right now on the market, but you don't get to apply it in your current project. My best advice is to master the technologies you have right now on your project. Even if that's SQL. Even if that means SQL. Even if that means, I don't know, Java server faces. I don't care. Learning because you get to practice them and the principles you will master, you will be applicable to other technologies also, right? So fully understand them. Another tip for you. If you have a bug, don't just patch it over. Have to understand what's there. Write a test to prove the bug. Learn. This is how I learned this GPA, technically, debugging problems I had with Hibernate, basically. Always look at the code that you have now in the project and wonder, how could you write it in a different way? Do what I call exploratory refactoring. That's a technique I see too rarely in companies. The habit of taking the current code just for fun. Can we do it in another way? How does it look in a different way? Okay. Do hackathons with your team. Take the code, try to refactor it to see how it feels. Right? On the job. Don't start learning something just because that's your dream job. That will not stick in your mind. You won't get deep in those concepts. You will just superficially learn the API, a bit of playing around. You won't really get to the point, right? The best thing, the best learning, the deepest learning that I ever had were on bugs and on weird things that caused me read books basically because of bugs. And then what happens? And then you are able to fix the problem and not just work around it, right? You don't throw the dead cat over the fence, how we call it. So you pick the right tools, keep it simple, and it become pragmatic. That's the end. This is the end. The moment that you realize that this problem should not be implemented in code. Because there is this tool that you can buy, which can get you out of it immediately, very, very cheap. This is the end. With the pragmatism that you say, okay, this is done, this should be done, this should not be done. What other things? Rami, how can I fix bugs without the debugger? If you don't know the code at all, if it's the first time you see the code, indeed debugger is quite required. But you should never experiment solutions by deploying, debugging, checking stuff. Experimentation of how to fix it is done locally after you unit test the bug. So you discover the code using breakpoints. You don't debug it like this. You don't. So what are the things are there that impede us, that cause headaches? Developers are special. Huh? Now, this is Zoom here, by the way. Hello. Hello. Why we are special is that we have our backs on bytes. Behind us, there is a machine. We can't talk to the machine saying that, I think I want that thing. No, you have to be precise. You see? You have to be absolutely sharp in the code we implement. You have to be extremely sharp in the stuff that we throw at the machine in the back. So technically, we are the interface between humans and machine. We, the developers. This is what gets us a job today. If software could write software, we would be out of job. We are the interface between the business analysts, the domain experts, and the machine that runs our code. This is why we have a job today. So here is a customer, here is a developer. And then if there is an intermediary in between, and I have some clients, I had very, very, very these days, if there is an intermediary through whose brain you have to pass your ideas to the customer, there might be misunderstanding. And something very dramatic happens. There is no more room for negotiation. You can't really negotiate timelines and scopes. You can't write an MVP. You can't negotiate an MVP with the customer anymore, because there is this guy in between who wants to have a job also. So this can bottleneck the communication, and I've seen it in a lot of banks, a lot of big corporations, right? Okay. So this is what you get if you don't. If you have an intermediary, you might get a different story, right? Telefono for a fee. All right. And this leads to blaming. Oh, it's the analyst's job. It's the product owner's job. Oh, God. Now, there is an old meme. This is what the customer explained. This is what the analyst designed. This is what the programmer wrote. This is what was the cost, right? And you know what's really, really sad? What is really sad is that the client actually needed this. This is what he actually needed. You see, different perspective about the same product. So that's what you miss if you have intermediaries, right? Oh my God. So, where are we today? Despite delivering expensive bugs slowly, shitty, bug-full code, we still have a job, and even a well-paid job. In Romania, if you are a developer, you are a VIP. You have twice the double. I mean, a lot of money. Right? Not the case in the Western countries, by the way. You don't gain that much compared to the cost of living. Anyway, 2001, they came with this idea, Agile Manifesto. Individuals matter more. Working software, collaboration, change, responding to change. Okay. And you know what's really interesting? In that room in 2001, there were only developers. The best developer on the planet, Martin Fowler, Kent Beck, Uncle Bob, the most hardcore, Jefferson, hardcore developers. There was no manager. There was no manager in that room. Oh my God. But now if I ask you, are you agile? Are you agile? Are you agile? Are you agile? You know what I hear? I hear, yeah, but you know, we are migrating, digitalization, right? A kind of agile-ish. This is what I hear. Agile-ish. Now, what's the catch? Because agile was somewhere on the line misunderstood. Agile with deadline, exactly, Claudio. Agile with deadline. This is what we are. So this is a developer, and then what is agile? You know what management sees? Management sees dinner. When you say agile, they believe they can throw at you late changes and have still the same deadline. Thank you, Claudio. This is what is understood by agile, unfortunately, in many companies, right? Now, Scrum pushed upon us. This is how it feels. From higher management comes the idea, let's become agile, right? And there is this Scrum Master, they bring you, and what? Where in fact, agile was a movement started by 100% developers. Agile is not a mythological creature that eats post-its and shits software. Quick reminder, right? You don't get magic for free. Where is technical excellence? That agile from there. In that room were the most bright developers on the planet at that day. This is forgotten. This is forgotten. Introducing the Software Craftsmanship Manifesto. 28. Now, actually, I have that also here somewhere. Anyway, we don't really care about only working software. We want well-crafted software. What does that mean? Clean code, my friend. I mean, not technical depth. Really good software. As good as possible for the scope, indeed. We want not only to respond, but to be able to add new features without slowing down 10 years from now, or 3 years from now. We don't only care about individuals and interactions, we want a community. We need a community. Here we are. Not only customer collaboration, but productive partnership, not collaboration. I can collaborate with my, how do you call that in English? The guy that comes to earn money for a single day to dig you a ditch. Să sapi un șanț. I'm not the worker. I'm not the worker. I am a partner of you, my dear domain expert. I am a partner. A developer should be a partner of the business, not a worker for the business. Right? Equal. This was not very clear in the Agile Manifesto. What I mean here, I mean taking an oath like medics do when they graduate. I will not harm a colleague. Sounds familiar? My wife is a medic, so I will not commit shit. Right? I will push with reliable tests. I want you to take this oath to, not slave. My God, no, don't say that. I want basically, if you think carefully, these two professionals are basically saying the same thing as the first one. If you are shipping shit, or if you are pushing without reliable tests, then you will harm someone else later. Most of the time, right? Of course, there are exceptions. Don't think I'm maniac about code quality. If you want to do like a spike to check the business features to see if you get some money from that, then okay, you run for 3 months, but then stop for 2 weeks to refactor. You don't get to run ad infinitum without paying a price, right? So, what should I do? I as the developer, what should I do? Well, what should a craftsperson do? Or at least not hesitate to try to do? Talk to the customer directly. I have many developers in my trainings that say I don't want to talk to my customer. Why? Because they are insane. Okay, but maybe you are not skilled enough to speak in his or her words. Maybe you need more social communication skills. Developers are famously anti-social. At least I swear to God, I was the most anti-social person you could meet. I don't like to talk to people. I didn't like to talk to people, right? Understand the real problem, not just what you are requested. Many developers today, I hand them some requirements which contains 2 contradictory requirements. They go over it and they say, okay. What do you mean, okay? But did you understand the problem? Yeah. Are you really sure? Yeah. So sometimes you don't really put your heart into this. You just take the requirements as they are and you just implement mechanical. And then you ask yourself why they consider you to be a worker. That's why, because you don't put your brain. You don't think about the project like it's your own. Right? You have to find the real problem and to propose solutions. Innovative solutions. For example, we want to implement this project, we have these requirements, we want to put a relation database, and we want to have a Java application, and you say, no. That's a Scala application for a Spark system. Challenge them. Challenge the requirements. Challenge the stuff. Challenge what. Come with innovative solutions. Don't restrict yourself to just solving the problem. You have to read a bit. Break the problem. Another skill. You should be able to take the specification, chop it down to independent features that you can implement. That's a skill that never gets obsolete. You can apply this in any software in the world. Design UI flow. But I'm a backend developer. So, you should be able to do that. Don't be an expert, but be able to have an idea of what's there. Write working software, write tests, unit tests. Evolve by refactoring, right? And deploy. Now, a traditional developer is only focused on doing this. There are 2 directions, the social and technical direction. Now, so what I want you to do, don't ever restrict to only working software. Unit test is our duty, is our job. Refactoring is our job. Don't ever ask permission to write tests or to refactor. Never ask permission. Hey, dear manager, can I take out the garbage from my home? Can I wash the toilet? Do you ask your manager if you can wash the toilet? Of course you can refactor the method, for Christ's sake. 7 parameters. Are you out of your mind? Out! So you don't ask for permission, right? Not even for testing. Put tests on the code. This is what should be like the oath you should take. I will not ship shit. I will have reliable tests. Otherwise, how can you name yourself a professional? What are you? Anyway, another thing. When should I learn all this? They don't give me time to learn. Classical. Who owns your career? It's a very cool question. Should your boss grow you? What, are you a baby? Should he take you to nursery or what? If you want to make a career in software, if you want to be professional, you should invest in yourself. And invest early because then children come. So when you are young, you should one day Netflix, one day coding, practicing, one day learning, one day. Okay, so don't just ask for the manager to give you time to learn. You should invest in yourself. Another stuff which I really love from this book. This book actually, after I read this particular book, I started the community. This guy, Sandro Mancus, this book is insane. I will strongly recommend you read it, especially if you want to start some technical communities inside, and if you want to grow your technical culture in the company. It contains a lot of tricks in there about how to increase the motivation of developers. Let's see if I can share some chapters with you. Where are you? Right, culture of learning. Culture of learning. How cool is that? How can you build a culture of learning in your company? So do read this book if you care for technical stuff. Right? But here's the chapter. Back in the 90s, debugging skills were a major point of discussion for any interview. You came to the interview and they were assessing you by how well you breakpoint. Now their days are gone. You should be disgusted when you have to do breakpoints. Exactly what you said. To fix a bug. You don't fix a bug like that. Instead, you write automated unit tests and refactor the code so that you fix the bug in a way that will never regress again. All right? So fixing bugs with breakpoints are good for exploration, right? But fixing bugs is something that that others will care for. So test the bug fixes. So you don't want to rely on mouse logs and faith to get to the bugs, right? You want to rely on testing. And not any testing. Testing by Jenkins. Here is Jenkins, firing your machine gun. Unit tests run by Jenkins. And in many companies, this is missing. They have tests, but they don't run on Jenkins. What kind of tests are there? You have to have a pipeline, right? That has become today like a de facto for most companies. But I just have to mention this, of course. Then, you see, this idea that Agile brought to the party is that you get to add more features along the way. But then the question is, when do you refactor? Do you ever refactor? Agile, if you misunderstand it, might mean to run like hell to meet the deadlines with the features. That's not Agile. That's a race. What is that? A race toward your doom. No, because you should constantly stop, look around and see how the code looks, continuously changing, refactoring, improving the design. So the problem, to state it, is emerging architecture. Perhaps you've heard about this word, that never emerges. Why? Because they keep running, right? Why does this happen? You don't know the business, the domain. You don't have the skills to refactor. You don't know your IDE. But to summarize these, you don't practice enough. You don't practice. You don't have technically the ability to refactor the code so good. So here is some techniques from extreme programming. Extreme programming. In those days, 2001, there was one guy in the room. His name was Kent Beck. You might have heard of it. He invented JUnit. He invented test-driven development. It's my favorite guy in the world. This guy had this practice. It's called extreme programming. It is considered today to be the most pure form of Agile. Extreme, indeed. Here are some practices from it. Pair programming, pipelines, continuous refactorings, simple design, test-driven development. Oh my God, who does this today? At least in Romania. They are extreme. They are extreme, but not extreme in this way. This guy is parachuting and coding in the same time. I'm not sure if this is not extreme. Extreme programming means extreme professionalism. You don't take down the guard. You are constantly looking to do the best job you can, right? I'm not sure if I want to do this with you. There is a lot of text and not really many. Look, more practical for you. Another book that I would recommend you read, especially if you want to grow yourself or someone else, your team, Apprenticeship Patterns. It's written by someone who has a PhD in psychology and another guy who is a developer. And you know what's fascinating? The PhD guy has become a developer. And he explains the learning process in software development. Very cool book, really cool. And here's one of the statements from this book. The performance of performing your daily job does not give you room to learn by making mistakes. What do I mean by that? I think it's clear, but still. Can you experiment? How would it feel to break the model in 2 ways? Could you put that to production? You can't afford that. It's too risky, right? So you don't have the time, the courage to practice while you are at work. Where could you practice if that's your daily job, right? So what are we missing? What are we missing? We are missing the time to focus. The time to carefully review what the hell are you doing? What is your daily job? What are you doing day to day? Reflect on on how you live, technically speaking. You have to constantly stop, look around and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Is there any other smarter way? Can I automate anything? Does it matter? Does it matter? If I, not someone else, if I would have asked myself this question in my career, I would have saved weeks of useless work. Just stopping and asking myself, flap, does this matter? No. Next. What I was doing then? I was optimizing to the extreme some parts of code that I didn't know were about to be deleted. I was investing heavy brains in stuff that was supposed to die in a month or two. So ask yourself, ask around, does this really matter? All right? If my words here resonate with you, then that tells me that you are passionate like I am. If you are passionate about software, then you are very easy to fall. It's very easy for you to fall in this trap. Spending a lot of brains and effort on something that really doesn't matter. So in that case, I would recommend that you take the step upwards in this chain. And I would say, go here. Does this really matter? Can we do it in a completely different way? Don't restrict yourself to just coding. Look around. In the end, we are paid to solve problems, not to write code. We are paid to solve the freaking problem. All right. So you have to have time to reflect. Constantly, weekly, you should do that, right? Weekly, 1 hour to focus. What are we doing? Right? Then, another thing, technically speaking, to practice your skills, do coding katas. Now, I keep telling people, do coding katas. I've done myself several of these on my channel on YouTube. So if you lack ideas what to do, how to do a coding kata, go on YouTube, search my channel, and there are several recordings of a kata. And I just planned another one, TDD in Kotlin, next month. So there are here examples. There are others doing stuff, but here is me. Referring to object-oriented programming, for example, referring to functional programming, coding katas, starting from a classical problem, prepared by super cool, super smart developers for you, asking you to refactor or to write code with tests ahead of you. Practice, because you don't have time at work. My God, how many times can I say this? You don't have time at work. You don't have the courage to do it. You don't have the motivation. You are afraid. You are emotionally bound to the product. How can I break that holy class we've worked for 7 years? I can't. That's why you want to take simple problems and unleash yourself on them. Really. Do anything. Play with them. Right? Practicing alone or together. This is called mob programming. Okay. So, what am I talking about here? I'm talking about the coding kata in which you take a problem. I could say, I may be wrong, I could say that if you want to become a true software craftsman, you should first have to dedicate some time to growing your technical skills. That's the first thing you have to master. If you have already 10 years of experience, if you've done 100 code reviews, if you pair programs for 100 hours with someone else, then you don't need this necessarily. But if you are starting your career, or if you find yourself like not learning much every day, do some coding katas. Play these games. Don't rush. Practice. Try different ideas how to solve the same problem, right? So, challenge your design. Is my code testable? Can I write tests on it or not? Is my code easy to refactor? Yes or no? Try to write, like I am doing next month, try to write in an unknown language for you. Try Kotlin. Try to do it in TypeScript. Try Clojure. try to solve the same problem that you already know in a different language. You know how cool is this? Because you already know the problem, the domain. So you can just focus on the technical stuff. If I had hours, Lincoln spent sharpening. What is it searching for? There is a famous meme over here. If I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, I will spend 6 hours sharpening my axe. What does that mean? Practicing to know your tool, okay? Practicing to know your tool, every detail of your IntelliJ, of your editor, every detail of your language, know them, practice them in a synthetical, safe environment. Try to explain your stuff to others. Bring your wife, your most loved one, explain to her the program. Challenge to explain what you're doing to someone non-technical, right? Super cool, so that you can then talk to customers at some point, right? Reasoning, what does this matter or not? I would invite those of you who have a bit more experience to start a pet project to play or to contribute to open source. Oh my God, it took me quite a lot of time, but finally it's out. I just published, oh my God, live coding. My first IntelliJ plugin. It has exactly 5 downloads. Yes, it has still bugs. They approved it yesterday, but it's community work. I will keep progressing that. Do stuff, but not. If you are strong enough, try to contribute to Spring, to Hibernate, to real hardcore frameworks, okay? And there's where you can read extremely well-crafted code. There is no other code as good as the one written in Spring. Right? There is super cool, very, very, very well-established code. And then maybe think about starting a business, like Vlad Mihalcha did. Anyway, so this coding dojo that I mentioned, you can play with your colleagues, maybe every 2 weeks, or alone you can play it. Practicing refactoring, practicing pair programming, practicing test-driven development on easy problems that will challenge you to try new technical ideas. If you manage to master the technical part of your job, you will start seeing the other bottlenecks around you. Deployment, customers, analysts. There won't be a challenge for you. So you want to accelerate your learning of the technical stuff. You want to know solid patterns, solid principles, design patterns. You want to know clean code rules. You want to know TDD, how it's done. You want to read the core books after which you can see what's there outside of coding. This is where you want to get as fast as possible. This is that moment of pragmatism, when technical issues don't represent a challenge for you. If someone comes to you and tells you what he wants to do, you should be able to always say yes, whatever the problem. When you reach that point, you will start seeing other bottlenecks around you. Now, this was a message for the more senior of you. Now, but what do you do if you are working in a team? Because you know that thing, Uncle Bob said, every 5 years, the number of developers on the planet doubles. Exactly. Oh my God, that's an exponent. That's what geometrical growth. What the heck is this? Doubles every 5 years. If you apply this math, it means that 1/2 of every team in the world has people with less than a year of experience, or 5 years, less than 5 years. The reality that I see in the teams is that half of them has less than 3 years in Romania. But anyway, so basically, most of the team is junior or mid-junior. What do you do to help them grow faster? Because they will push to the same git as you do, right? You, the senior. So what do? Start a book club. And folks, my main topic in my training is clean code. This is what I'm most fascinated to go. So I get to companies and they ask me, Victor, okay, we talked about clean code. Okay, that's good. Yeah, people were very enthusiastic. But how can we keep this going for more than 3 weeks after the training? How can we keep the flame burning? How can you create a culture in the company so that everyone comes to job eager to learn new stuff, to discover new elegant solutions to the problems? These are some tricks that I or others have used in different companies. Start a book club. I did, I think, almost 80. This is how I started my community. Long time ago, it was the techie readers. very old. If you are old in the community, you know that. I started reading a chapter every 2 weeks and then explaining what I understood live to my people in the community. We were very, very young at that moment. We were, I don't know, 80, 100 people. Start a book club in your company. 2 weeks, read this chapter. And then they debate to each other what they understood and what they didn't. Brown bag session, what does that mean? You bring a problem, Friday at noon, during lunch, and while the other colleagues of yours eat with camera off, you present your problem in code. Here's my stuff. How could I solve it? Okay? Every week, every 2 weeks, do that. Get everyone to speak and to bring some idea to the party. And while people are eating, you present your stuff. No one loses any time, really. Rotate projects, brilliant idea. I actually asked my developers to do that. I told them, okay, go for 1 week to that other project over there to learn Java EE, another framework. Go learn it. 1 week you rotate. Ideally, one guy from one team moves to another team, and the other guy. This stimulates what? This stimulates communication, because if you are new in the team, you are borrowed for 2 weeks for a sprint. You have to explain to that guy what you were doing. You have to grow your communication skills. That guy opens the mind, sees another mindset, another project, other habits, other ideas. Then this is how you can spread the best practices throughout your company. It's really brilliant. Rotate projects. Take developers and maybe force them every 2 months to spend a sprint in the other team. Try that. And ideally, that should come bundled with pair programming to be most effective. Otherwise, you will just knowledge transfer. So ideally, that guy, when you rotate, you code with someone. Group code reviews. Oh my God, how cool is that? If you have some code review that during which you reach some very interesting conclusions, during which you step on some principles or you discover some patterns, take that code review into a brown bag session and explain what you did with that guy during this meeting about that. Then hands-on coding, as I said, mob programming, try to do a coding dojo. You know how this is done? Friday, and I have some companies that are doing this. Friday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. What does that mean? 1 hour from the boss, 1 hour from your time. Sounds fair. You spend coding on some useless code. A coding exercise. So that you get to practice. It's enough to just have 4 developers in the group. It's enough. You take turns. One writes the code, and then you, after 10 minutes, push-pull to a branch. The other guy comes. The next one comes. Continues the work. Rotating stuff. Start communities of practice. This is super important. You should have. Most companies have, for example, 50 projects. In the 50 projects, clear example, there are 30 projects Java EE, 20 Spring Boot. Okay. And then 10 projects Angular, 10 projects Java Server Faces, and whatever. You should have communities. Angular community, Java EE community, Spring community, Java community. This is what the big players in the market are doing. Communities of practice. So that they establish coding style guidelines that you can ask a question in that community, internal in your project. React.js community, of course. Encourage pet projects. At Google, if I'm not mistaken, they give them 1 day every 2 weeks or every month to play on their own pet projects. They encourage people to start their own stuff. They've realized that developers are better if they can reason about what should be done or what doesn't worth the pain. Starting a pet project gets you to ask yourself the question, should I implement this feature or not? You are the product owner of your pet project. And of course, start engaging with communities. Join a community. Whatever community, join and try to encourage your internal developers to speak at community events. It's incredible. If you encourage someone from inside to speak to a community, that someone will suddenly start thinking, oh, okay, so I'm important, interesting. So can I spread this idea in the company too? You want guys, people, some companies are looking for what we call a technical coach. Internal